All right, guys, part two, or I guess continue DIY, how to install bearings and the Moose kit, which is pretty much the same as anybody else's kit, except the Moose, remember, has the thrust washer instead of the needle bearing. All right, enough of that. You can go back to the last video if you want to check that out. So there's a bearing installed with the seal on the inside and properly packed with a really good Alco what is it? Alco Metal Lube grease. That stuff's awesome. It's usually typically made, or not typically, it's actually made for an Abrams M1 tank, the tracks. So here's the install on the other side, right? Seals flush so that you can put the spacing washer in there like that, right? And you'll notice minimal grease on the inside of the seal, no grease on the outside because that attracts dirt. And then we drop this in there, right? And we make sure that we can see the lip of the seal. We didn't fold the lip over. The lip is sticking up all the way around. So that's properly installed. That's your stack up, right? Hardened spacing washer, right? Then the seal, or whatever in the build, right? Looks like these two are in there. Then you've got three washers, right? One, then the thrusting washer, two, the other washer, three. Then you've got the bearing. Let's turn it over again real quick. You've got the bearing that you got to put in, and then on the inside of the bearing you get the inside seal, which is installed there. So what I did to put the bearing in, I made my own little puller here, and you can literally see it doesn't take more than about, hold on, let me see if I can hold the swing arm here and do this at one time. About that much force to pull the bearing, whoops, I don't want to lose my swing arm, to pull the bearing in with this nut and bolt arrangement. So all it is a hardened thick washer, right? Bigger than this diameter here. Then another thick washer, bigger than the diameter of the needle bearing, but smaller than the inside diameter here. Then a couple spacing washers and a nut. That's pretty much the only tools you need. Let me take it apart and show you. We'll go over it one more time. Let's see if I can get it broken loose. Hold on one second, guys. Let's see if we can get this taken apart so you guys can get a look at what we're talking about. You are going to want to use a fine thread bolt though. And I think that one's about 3.5 inches, but this one would work, this longer one would work. Just depends on how many washers you're going to need to take up that distance, right? So what I'm talking about is this has to be bigger than here, but smaller than here. So when it goes all the way, when it pulls it all the way down, it's going to sit, the top of this bearing right here is going to sit flush with down inside right there, right? So that is important. There you kind of want to see why we want this washer, right? Smaller than the inside diameter of where the seal sits. So as I go down in further, it is taking a little more force, but I'm still, on a regular wrench to pull it down. So, and I mean, some guys heat this area up prior, and they freeze the bearing and all kinds of stuff like that, but it's 105 degrees in California today, so this is already 105 degrees. But yeah, some guys heat it up and it pulls in a little easier. I don't use any Loctite. So let me finish this up and then I'll show you how deep we actually go. All right, guys, so you can see down in there that I actually had to add one more washer up here because I ran out of threads. So I put one more thick washer on there, and you can see the bottom washer is flush with this bore right here. So we'll pull it out, we'll take a look at it, you'll get an idea of how deep the needle bearing needs to be in it. All right, so we take the bolt out. This is the final washer, and you'll see that the washer that's bigger than that hole brought it all the way down flush, right? Got it? So the next thing that's going to go in, right, is grease this, steel, yellow side, or needle bearing if it's needle bearing. And if you're doing a needle bearing, you're also going to be lubing that needle bearing, or packing it. Then it's going to be that one like that. Then it's going to be the seal. Then it's going to be that spacing washer. That's going to be the stack up, all right? So let's talk about packing a bearing correctly, right? So you can look down in there, that one Start out like this one, right? Dry. This one's completely dry. There you go, fully packed with the inside seal in place. Now let's do two things at once. To get the inside seal in, which I'm going to do last. Actually, let's cover that later. Let's go over this. This is the grease I use. It's Alco Metal Lube Company. There's their website and their phone number. This grease is literally the same grease they use for Abram tank pins. It was developed specifically for that. So it's green. It's an NL or an NIGI grade 2, and it's lithium. There you go. And it's a lithium-based grease, right? You can literally pressure wash, and this grease won't come out with steam. So it's really a pain. You better make sure you want it greased when you do this, and getting it out later is kind of a pain in the ass. You really got to work at it. All right, so when you're packing a bearing, you want to take grease, put it on your finger, and you want to push the grease into the rollers and between the cage. So you want to get the grease forced into all these crevices, right? That's why it's called packing. So I'm going to take about that much at a time, stick my finger in there, and I roll the grease. See how I rolled my finger kind of toward the top of the bearing so it's not pushing out. Then I push the grease in, right? And I push it in again. Let me see if I can get an idea. See how it's kind of going in? And you can grab the grease from the bottom and push it in there. Bring it back over. Force it in. You'll feel it squeezing in. So, get some more out. And we just go all the way around the bearing and we just force it in all the way around. Okay? It's the same thing you do needle bearings, roller bearings, ball bearings on cars, any other application where you're packing a bearing, right? It's pretty much the same thing. I mean, there are tools to do it, but you can actually feel whether or not you're doing it right. So, and man, I've been packing bearings for 50 years now. So, anyways, it's kind of a lost art, and that's why we went to sealed bearings, to tell you the truth, on modern cars. That's why you don't have packed bearings anymore, because you used to have to take your car to the dealer, and we'd have to pack your bearings about every 10,000, 15,000 miles. And the grease wasn't as good then. You know, we didn't have synthetic grease. So this is almost fully packed. It is now. Yeah. So and you'll hear it squish out and between and all that. Okay. Anywhere that you can get grease in here, it's going to keep water out. Because where there's grease in, water can't get in, right? So we're going to fill this up with grease, right? Now you can use red grease also if you want, you know, good synthetic red grease. But the first thing is we want to make sure all these little crevices, so all these little crevices in here are full of grease, because that's all areas where dirt and everything can build up. I usually grease all my pivots on my dirt bikes, depending on how much I'm riding or racing, between once a month and once every 6 months. Definitely no more than, I mean, you got to do it every season. You can't get away with not doing that. All right, so put a big glob in because we're going to work this around. Then we're going to take the yellow one, the thrust, right? And like I said, if this was a needle bearing, you'd be packing it the same way, but you'd be packing it in the palm of your hand. So we're going to make sure all the little divots in here get filled with grease, okay? All these little pockets that are designed to hold grease, that's what the little dimples are. We're going to make sure that they're all full of grease, right? And that's what we're doing right now. Okay? We're going to try to fill all the corners. All right, then we're going to the next steel on top of that, right? And we're filling the top of that one with grease. And this doesn't take as much space because, you know, the hole's getting shallower and shallower. So, all right, takes about that much on the top. Clean off that part. The seal comes next. Now here's the interesting thing. Sorry, we're getting out of focus. I'm trying to clean my fingers. Here's the interesting thing about the seal. All right, we're all cleaned up and ready to go here. The seal can be pushed in, like I said, almost by hand, There we go. Now you can get anything flat. See how it's down a little bit right here? It's actually recessed a little bit below. So I'm going to pick that up a little bit. All right, here's what we want to do. We want to get something. Now this is actually a steel and bushing installer, but it's not for this application. I bought a set. I mean, it's a way bigger set than this, like 100 pieces off eBay. And this is for a GM transmission, but you know, bushings and seals are bushings and seals. So I'm going to push this down just with my hand, and you'll see how it's low right there, but it's flush right here. So we're going to carefully grab a screwdriver, and hopefully you guys don't have to do this, but that's just because it sort of went in low with me. But the help if I got a thinner screwdriver. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's go this screwdriver right here. I don't want to tear the seal, so I'm carefully going underneath it. Come on, get underneath there. And up there it is. And I'm picking it up. All right, so now it's a little high right there. What we're going to do is we're going to take our steel or our flat piece of whatever. You use a flat piece of metal. Push it down again. All right, now it is flush, right? So let me show you guys what that looks like. Because we don't want to drive this one in too far, okay? All right, so that seal's flush. The reason you want that seal flush is because it's supposed to ride in the middle of this. If we push this one all the way down in, this seal won't work anymore, or this inner race won't work. It'll be in the wrong spot of the seal. So you see how we got all this grease? We're going to get rid of that too. Too much grease right now, guys. I know I said pack the crap out of it, but we got too much, and grease attracts dirt. So we're going to keep it off the lip. Okay, I'll clean it up later, but you guys get an idea. We're going to clean that up really well, and then this is going to go in like that, right? And you're going to make sure, you're going to turn it a few times and stuff like this, and you're going to make sure that the lip right here is up. See the lip right there? If it gets sucked down in and rolled over, that's no good, because that'll let the dirt go in like that. All right? So that's all that part. Now the last seal, did I already put that in? Where did I put it? Right here. The inside seal goes in like this, right? This, again, you can push in almost by hand. So let's say I just kind of get it going with my fingers like that, right? I don't want to get it in too far, but you can see that it's going in, right? Then I can take something to square it up like this. I get it square. In my case, what I had that was close, I didn't have, I mean, I could have used this seal driver right here, but it wasn't deep enough to go down far enough. So I grabbed a 22 millimeter socket, and I put it like that. I put my extension through here, put it inside my socket. I pushed really hard with my bare hand right there, just pushed it down, right? And I'll show you what it looks like when it's installed. So we'll look at the other side. And I'm just making a greasy mess of this workbench. And it should look like, what did I do here? Oh, I'm sorry guys, I had the other side. So, should look like, and carefully get this one back out without screwing it up. Should look like that when it's installed. So you push it all the way down flush against the needle bearing in there, and that's what you end up with. That's what a properly packed needle should look like, right? So, all right, that's this part of it, guys. You're also gonna, you know, grease your axle before you put it in. That way it doesn't get all this crap going on. I mean, it's not bad, but, you know, it's nicer when you go to take it out. So that's this part of it. We'll go over some other tips in a few minutes, or the next video. So remember to subscribe, like, add comments. Tell me what you want done on the other projects. And that's it, man. Have a good weekend.